All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Lab Coaches Direct Access webinar. All right. So everybody's kind of joining us here. Fantastic. Really appreciate you guys joining us. We're going to get started in about 1 minute. And I am Dr. Allen, coming to you from Austin, Texas. So really looking forward to this presentation. It is going to last about an hour and 20 minutes or so, depending on your questions. So plan accordingly. If you have things you need to get done this afternoon, we're going to try to do a replay too, so don't worry about that. We do have something at the end that you'll want to stick around for if you can, and you can always access that on the replay too. All right, so we're going to start in about 30 seconds or so. So if you have a pen and paper, that would be great. There might be some things you want to write down, but we want you to pay attention to the chat box and to the Q&A because we're going to be answering questions as we go through the presentation. I do have a slideshow that will kind of help direct everything and will provide a lot of information for you guys. All right, so I think it's about time, so let's go ahead and get going on this. I'm just gonna pull up this PowerPoint and we will go. All right, so here we go. All right, so we're gonna talk a lot about direct access testing and how you might think about incorporating direct access testing into your own personal health if you're a health optimizer. Or if you have clients who have very high deductibles and don't have very good co-insurance for labs, this might be an option for them. But I'm going to talk to you just sort of about the process, and we're going to talk a lot about labs that I use in anti-aging. Some of them you probably have heard before, maybe some of them will be new. Let me give you a little background on myself. I am a medical doctor. I got an MD from Loma Linda University Medical Center. Loma Linda is one of the blue zones in the world, one of the 5 blue zones. It's where people live past 100 years old, more so than any other place in the world, and it's quite an interesting place to train in. I train with a lot of surgeons that were doing surgery well into their 80s very competently. And the other thing I liked about Loma Linda is that it taught us whole person care. So it wasn't just John in the back with colon cancer. It was John, you know, he's a software engineer, he's got 3 kids and he's married and he has unfortunately the diagnosis of colon cancer. How can we best help him? So patients weren't a disease, patients were people. And I think that was a really great place to come from. I was board certified in emergency medicine. I did a fellowship with A4M when I turned 40. That was several years ago. And from that, I was hired by different companies to help develop wellness and disease interception programs. I worked as a consultant with Biophysical Corporation, which was an advanced diagnostic lab that did NBC's Biggest Loser and the Oprah Winfrey Show. I also worked with PhDX, another advanced laboratory provider. And then from all this sort of, and with my own patients in my anti-aging practice, I really felt like there was a need, particularly since 2013, for patients who had very high deductibles to be able to go out and get testing in a more affordable way. So currently I'm an assistant clinical professor for the Department of Surgery and Perioperative Care at the Dell Medical School at the University of Texas at Austin, where I teach residents and students. So I'm excited to maybe teach you a few things today. What I want you to do is understand your lab testing options that are out there and how you might access those. And there is an opportunity for you to benefit from this in many ways, but particularly with your own health. And then we're going to also talk about how you can review your results yourself and review your results of your clients without stepping outside the scope of practice and going into the diagnosis phase of it, which should be done by a provider. We're going to talk a lot about leveraging labs and the resources that you're going to learn about. And then finally, I'm going to give you a special offer for my Lab Masterclass, which will allow you access to over 60 advanced biomarker tests in my entire teaching library and video education series when it comes to lab tests and the anti-aging and functional ranges that you might be looking for. I also want to provide a lot of evidence-based tools for you to use in your practice so you can download from my site, and they're great things that my health coaches use every day. All right, so I want to talk about the 5 keys to aging well. And some of you may have seen this handout that we did provide in our email series. But if you haven't got it, don't worry about it. We're going to provide all the answers at the end. We're going to specifically talk about nutrients that improve metabolism, 3 of the most common nutrient deficiencies. And then when it comes to the thyroid, or what we call the hormone pillar of health, we're going to talk about how you might know if you're at risk of developing thyroid disease, and then what are some of the optimal advanced thyroid testing levels. So if you've had thyroid tests done before, I'm going to tell you today what are my optimal levels for those thyroid tests. And also with blood vessels, we used to think cholesterol was sort of the mainstay of aging of the blood vessels. It's turned out it's a combination of things, but we do like to look at cholesterol, and I want to teach you what the latest lab tests are for that. And then I'm curious to know whether or not your providers are recommending this test. Inflammation, another key area to aging. We're going to talk about chronic inflammation and the biomarkers that we use to measure chronic inflammation. And then finally, we're going to talk about metabolism, and we're going to look and see how insulin has a dynamic role in our metabolism, and how can we actually get to that optimal insulin level. Insulin is that hormone that's sort of a pro-growth hormone. We have too much of it around. We tend to fertilize fat and build more belly fat, which is very unhealthy. All right, so to talk about direct access testing, I want you to understand the past and then the present. And this is kind of a controversial topic, and I notice it when we do run Facebook ads. There's a lot of misconception around what is currently available and what is legal. So let's first talk about past. So the past was that your provider would only order the tests they felt were necessary. And that was the pros. So there wasn't a lot of wasted time. If your provider felt like the test was necessary for you, they would order it. There was pretty decent insurance coverage in the past once the person's deductible was met. And so we used to think of labs as being, this is a tool that only our provider knows about and uses. The cons really have been that sometimes, particularly now with patients going more online, that certain tests may not be granted by their provider that the patient themselves feel like they should have got. And I think more common than that is that we just don't do a very good job of explaining lab results to our patients. And I'm talking about this as a doctor. We don't really take the time to really go in and say, hey, this test is testing for this, and this is where we would like to see you, this is the optimal range, and you're here. What we tend to do is just either diagnose them with the disease and write a prescription, or tell them, hey, your labs look fine, and they go out the door, and they don't get that education. So fast forward to present day. So now we have this direct access modality, and the pros of direct access testing is transparency. People love to see transparency when it comes to anything. And unfortunately, with insurance, sometimes they sort of hide how much it's going to be, and you're never quite sure, and it's so confusing. And so people get frustrated, particularly if they have high deductibles, and they know they're going to get stuck with a pretty big bill. And so what I like about direct access testing is that it tends to save people money, and it's a cash transaction that leads to a lot of transparency. The cons, and this is sometimes brought up numerous times by practitioners, is saying, hey, this is not guided, people will get confused, they don't know what they need, and so on. And some states actually restrict access to direct testing, mainly because of these concerns, and that's New York, New Jersey, Maryland, and Rhode Island. So those 4 states, they don't allow any direct access company to operate within them. Some other facts that you might be aware of, that anyone above the age of 18 can go to a direct access online platform and order testing. It is available everywhere in the United States except for these 4 states that I talked about. It is a cash-based discounted pricing thing, and it doesn't accept insurance. Insurance requires ICD-10 diagnostic codes, which the direct access companies do not provide. However, if you have a flexible savings account or a health savings account, more often than not, all you need is a receipt, and you can submit it to those, and that seems to be just fine. When results are actually released to the client, they should be HIPAA compliant. In other words, the company should protect that personal health information. They have a legal obligation to do so. And so they oftentimes protect them with a password or through a portal and so on. And affiliate commissions can be paid in the direct access marketing to health coaches in particular. And consumers seem to be demanding this option. And probably the biggest question that I had was, and this is when I sort of first looked at this, why would someone use this option if they had insurance already? Because to me, shoot, I pay a lot for insurance, about $1,800 a month, and I want my insurance to cover something, right? So the idea here is that this direct access testing is really not for everyone. It's for those people that suffer from really high deductibles, and the cost has been shifted to them, and they're actually looking for alternatives. So to give you an example of where we're going and where we've come from, this graph here on the bottom is, of course, the year, and then on the y-axis, or on the left side here, is the millions of dollars that have been spent on direct access testing. And you can see that around 2013, we had this fairly large spike come along. And ever since then, we've been increasing at a rate of about 25 to 30% per year, and that's what it's projected to continue doing. More consumers are really demanding this option, and they're going online, they're very comfortable with the process, and they're beginning to order tests themselves. All right, the only thing that seems to be growing just as fast over the same period of time as health coaching, and that's particularly what we became interested in, is because we found out that consumers are really a little bit confused about navigating the whole medical process and the health process. We have more people suffering from chronic disease than we've ever seen before. And so now we're seeing health coaches just booming. And there used to just be a couple health coaching education platforms. Now there are numerous, and there's hundreds of people going through health coaching programs every single year. And so health coaches have become quite noticed. And on the other side of things, what's happening in medicine with doctors we're now beginning to argue against the annual physical exam and preventative labs. This is an article in the New England Journal of Medicine written by two doctors who are saying we need to improve the value. We're wasting way too much money with these well visits, these preventive medicine visits. And so they argue that we should really do away with these preventative medicine visits. And it's an unfortunate thing. That was the time when they get to build the relationship with their patient. Now that's kind of going by the wayside due to pressure to see more people because insurance reimbursement keeps going down. So this is where health coaches have stepped in to build relationships. And so it's very important that people be held accountable. And being held accountable is something that unfortunately providers haven't had a lot of time to do. And having that relationship and finding out what are the key drivers of motivation for that person has become extremely important. In fact, the House and Senate Health Savings Act of 2016 looked to try to include health coaching as a qualified medical expense. And while I don't think this was passed, this was something that at least now the government is really looking into the value of health coaches. All right, so now let's get back to education process here when it comes to aging. So I'm going to introduce you to a concept called an aging well wheel. And so in the middle of this wheel are all the things that we can't do much about. We can't really prevent ourselves from getting older. Of course, we're born with a certain race and gender, and we were given certain genetics by our parents. And so these are considered non-modifiable risk factors. We just can't do much about them. On the outside of this circle are four very key drivers to aging. And we used to think that the left on the top, vascular integrity, which really refers to cholesterol, we really thought that this was the main driver of cardiovascular disease. And this really came from decades and decades of studying the aging process. And we looked at cholesterol as being a main driver of that. Well, to the right, that circle to the right called inflammation is kind of the new craze, because now we truly believe that chronic inflammation is at the root cause of almost every disease. And so how can we intervene when there's inflammation? How do we know that inflammation is going on, and how can we measure inflammation? And then down to the right is insulin dynamics, and this really refers to the tsunami of diabetes and prediabetes that we're suffering from, not only here in the United States, but really worldwide. We have 86 million prediabetics. 90% of those people are undiagnosed and are at risk for increased cancer and stroke and heart attack. And then, of course, we have many people suffering from diabetes, and more people have diabetes now than ever before in the history of the world. Now, down to the left is hormone, the hormone pillar. We call it hormone imbalances. This is where we look at the function of the thyroid gland, of cortisol. And I don't know if you knew this or not, but now we can actually measure fat hormones. That's right. There are good fat hormones and bad fat hormones that come from our belly fat. So if you'd like to know whether or not you have healthy belly fat, that now can be measured in a blood test. And then the square box on the very outside circle to the left here, that is nutrition. Super important, of course, important for health coaches, important for providers, although less so because we don't spend a lot of time talking with our patients about nutrition like we should. In fact, we're actually given very little nutritional education in medical school. So nutrition is a big missing link for most of us. And I think nutrition really has been driving particularly diabetes over the last couple decades. But we can look at certain micronutrients in the bloodstream. These can be measured. We can now measure food sensitivities and food allergies and all these kind of things. So in your Aging Well wheel, there's all these things that we can look at using blood tests. And I call this a very comprehensive way to evaluate a person. So I like to look at aging as that wheel. All right, so maybe you're a health coach out there, or maybe you're a doctor, or maybe you're a chiropractor, maybe you're a naturopath, maybe you're a nutritionist, and you're thinking, wow, this is really cool. I do have some people out there, clients that have very high deductibles that are stuck having to pay the cost of their lab tests. And so this actually might be something good for you to know about, so you can educate your clients about how it works. I hope that I've taught you that labs are necessary just by looking at that aging wheel. They can be a great driver for compliance. And I will tell you this, never ever recommend that anyone get lab testing done if they're not willing to do something about the results. If they're just getting them tested and they're never going to do anything, then everybody's wasting their time and money. So there's no reason for them to do so. So if you feel like that person is motivated and will actually address the issues that come up, that's where this becomes such a great tool. All right, so outside my scope of practice, we do get this quite a bit, and I think it's a controversial thing when we start talking about it, but the reality of it is direct access testing really has very little to do with you, the health coach, or even you, the any kind of practitioner, because when you enter into a direct access platform, they should have a provider who is actually ordering the tests and reviewing the tests, making sure there's no panic values before the tests are released. And that's how direct access companies work. They tend to know all the various state laws, and they have physicians they contract with in various states who actually order the tests and then review the results and then release those results. And so it's really important that the direct access companies pay attention to compliance. If you're a health coach and you're like, well, I'm going to order these tests for my patient, actually, your client's ordering the tests. You can order the test for yourself. Your client can order the test for themselves. But the truth is, the person who's actually ordering the test is the provider in many states. And that provider also is reviewing the results to make sure there's not a panic value that they need to contact the patient immediately about and tell them to go to the emergency room. And so out of the hundreds and hundreds of tests that we've done, we have had to, reach out on a couple of occasions to people just to say, hey, we noticed this result was significantly abnormal. You need to take action on this, and this is what you need to do. And sometimes just repeating the test. Other times it's actually, going and doing something right there and then. So it's the liability of that physician that's contracted with by the direct access company. Other than that, what tends to happen is those clients who order the blood test are strongly encouraged to follow up with their provider to get a review of the lab test and a diagnosis and treatment if that is what's required. All right, so I'm going to talk about how you can become an affiliate and add some revenue to your practice if you want to. There's booming consumerism out there. If you're not sort of recommending direct access testing, you don't know anything about it, you're going to be behind the eight ball, because a lot of people really need this. It does set yourself apart in understanding how the process works, because ideally you want to be that trusted expert, and you want to be able to tell that patient this isn't, or tell that client of yours that this is an option, particularly if they have really high deductibles and they're stuck paying, the tab. Our pricing, I can just tell you, is very competitive. We tend to beat most direct access lab companies' prices on almost every test. There are a few tests here and there that we don't have great contracts for, and so sometimes they beat us. But in general, across the board, we do very, very well considering what everybody else has their pricing at. All right, I want to talk about commissions. Very early on for your lab work, we decided we wanted to support health coaches because we really felt that they would do a lot of good, and we really think there's a tremendous role for you out there. And part of it is really because I'm a doctor, and I understand the time limitations that are put on us, and I understand what the insurance companies are doing. And working in the advanced laboratory space, I understand a lot of these labs aren't even covered by insurance. And I also understand that co-insurance for labs has dropped significantly in the last several years. We used to have 70 to 80% coverage after the deductible was met. It's now dropped down to about 50%. To give you an example, we had somebody come through our platform and they ordered an advanced thyroid panel, which included most of the thyroid tests, including reverse T3 and so on. And the total cost to that client was $250. Well, they went to our partner laboratory, which is Quest Diagnostics, and the phlebotomist actually checked a box called bill to patient instead of bill to us. We actually checked the box ahead of time, so I'm not sure how that happened. But she got a bill. And the thing is, her bill was $1,200. And this is where direct access testing can come into play, because the reality of it is that she only paid $250. So we were able to, of course, go back and tell the laboratory, hey, this should have gone in under our contract. But the point is this: you can save your client a significant amount of money by going through direct access if you have that client with a very high deductible. All right, so because we decided we were going to try to partner with health coaches and we felt like they were valuable, we decided we need to revenue share with them much better than anybody else. So if you look across the board, we pay 100 to 150% higher than any of our competitors when it comes to affiliating with health coaches. We want you to follow Federal Trade Commission guidelines by simply posting something like making a purchase through these links won't cost you anything, but you'll receive a small commission. And really, this is something that should be present in anything that you recommend online, whether it's a nutraceutical or a book. I think of Kanye West, who recently was selling a watch, and he posted an Instagram with a watch showing here, and the FTC sent him a letter and said, hey, if you're going to have this, it needs to have you're getting paid. So it needs to have the word sponsored, or it needs to have some sort of statement. And this is to protect you if you're recommending anything online. Now, the Federal Trade Commission's, probably not looking, at thousands of health coaches, but the idea here is they could be. And so for you to know about that is a good thing. So my idea of what your role should be, you should advocate for your client. And if that person does have a high deductible and they don't have, most of the insurance cost for them is shifted to them, we want you to know about this option. And also, we want you to be a transparent resource provider. If we're going to revenue share with you, it's okay to tell your client about it. Don't feel bad about it. It doesn't cost them anything extra. And by simply stating that, everything's above board. And then finally, and most importantly, is really educating your client on the whole process and how it works, and letting them feel comfortable about it. All right, so this is some FAQs that we get, and I'm happy to take any questions that you might have in addition to this, but these are just some common things. So we pay 15% commission on sales. The idea here is that it costs nothing to become an affiliate. So if you go ahead and go to our homepage, yourlabwork.com, go all the way to the bottom and click on Become an Affiliate. And you can apply to become an affiliate. It's only a couple of questions. We will screen you, make sure you're appropriate fit. We will, of course, want you to follow FTC guidelines, and we give you information on that. It's really for you. It really, since it's cost nothing, it really is sort of no harm, no foul. If you decide you don't want to be an affiliate later on, or you don't want to put effort into it, that's fine. You can join our Lab IQ page. It's a private educational Facebook group. We tend to talk about labs, and sometimes I will get on there and review different types of labs, and so people really understand really what this test is testing and what I think optimal is, and so on. The idea is just to provide an educational platform for you and to partner with you to help support your value and your journey. Another thing that I think is kind of cool about what we decided to do is, if you do refer us a client, we will pay out immediately on any order that's less than $200. Just be aware that the other direct access platforms typically will not pay you for more than 30 days. And so we really felt like it was important that if you referred someone, that you would know and you would get positive feedback right away. If the orders were large, we thought, well, we're taking a little bit of a risk here in case the person cancels their order. And so we don't want to have to come after you for the affiliate deal. So we just kind of decided $200 was a good cutoff. Now, here's the thing. We can't tell you if your client actually ordered the test, nor can we send you the results. Because, again, this is HIPAA compliant. We're HIPAA compliant, so we don't provide any of that information to you. If your client wants to share their data with you, they can, of course, download it from our site and they can send it to you. It's totally up to them what they want to do with their own results. However, we cannot confirm that the person actually went through it and had it. You actually can follow your affiliate tracking in our website to kind of see how you're doing in terms of when you're getting paid and that kind of stuff. But that's part of the reason why we decided to pay right away on the less than $200. So if you did, feel like you're getting some traction, you were getting some positive feedback there by seeing the money come in. All right. So here's a great example. I actually just went to the internet to see what people were doing, and I was hoping they were doing the right thing. And this first person I came across, I thought this was awesome. This is someone who actually took my lab master class and had, their own lab work done, and I had given them a lot of really good educational information. And so what I liked is they followed these three things: advocate, they were transparent, and they educated. So let's kind of just go through this. So at the top, this is such an amazing tool to have in our health and wellness toolbox. I'm so thankful to have this resource for myself and my own health journey, and to be able to share it with you. If you'd like to order labs, please use my affiliate link. Okay, cool. So they're advocating, if a person wants to order their own testing. That's great. Using my link costs you nothing. Okay, you receive discounted labs at 50, 80% less than where you pay elsewhere. Okay, well, where does that number come from? You'll see 50 to 80% less on almost every direct access platform. Well, it comes from the fact is that recent example that I gave you where somebody ordered these advanced thyroid tests. It cost them $1,250 when it was billed to them personally, and then it cost them $250 on our website. So that's an example of the savings. So we can pass along a lot of savings because we negotiate contracts for hundreds and hundreds of orders, not just one order at a time. And that's kind of how we end up saving people money. So they're being transparent about that referral. That's great. I love this. Please note, I'm not a medical doctor. I cannot receive lab results from the lab, read or interpret labs, or diagnose or treat any medical condition. So this is great. I mean, this person is setting it out very firmly up front. She's not practicing medicine. Okay? That's awesome. Okay, but what I can do is share with you Dr. Allen's optimal functional ranges for labs. She went through the education platform. She knows what they are. She can print them out and she can send them with her client for that client's provider to review. All of this information is evidence-based. And so if that provider is reading the latest evidence and research, they're going to look at this stuff and be like, wow, this stuff is right on the money here. And so that's the value. It's pretty awesome. So here's what she can share. I can share these functional medicine ranges. I can help guide you in food and lifestyle and supplements you might want to consider. And then I'm going to sit down with you, and this is what she does. I'm going to sit down with you. I'm going to go over all the labs with you, and I'm going to write about 20 different questions we're going to ask your provider based on your lab tests. And I'm going to spend an hour doing this so that when you go in for your 5-minute visit with your provider, and hopefully it's more, but oftentimes it's not, you're going to force that provider to answer each and every one of these questions because you have a much better understanding of these labs and what these labs are actually testing for. So are people willing to pay for this? The answer is yes, pretty awesome. And they're getting an education along the way. Okay, so we partner with Quest Diagnostics, and the reason why is because access. We want people to have access to testing. And so we want to do pretty much everywhere except for New York, New Jersey, Maryland, Rhode Island. And Quest Diagnostics has literally thousands of locations. So somebody's asking, Natalie's asking right now, how does this compare to LabCorp, since you mentioned Quest Diagnostics? So LabCorp doesn't have as many draw stations. And for us, the main issue was we wanted to have access for people because that's just how it is, and Quest just has way more access points. Do I like LabCorp? Sure, but I like access better, and that's kind of where we're at. Natalie, thank you for your question. So if you go to our website and maybe a person wants to know what's recommended or not, we have some ideas there. There's healthy blood vessels, which is our advanced cholesterol panel. The nutrients and omegas, we go through and we bundle price a bunch of nutrients and omegas. And then transformation panel is our most comprehensive panel. We tend to offer a ton of tests. And this, actually, the transformation panel is a part of what I'm going to offer you today in the Lab Masterclass. Now, let's just say that you want one single test. And we had somebody come through this morning. They came to our chat box and they said, hey, I'm just trying to find a red blood cell magnesium test. That's no problem. We direct them to this place on our site. It's called the Custom Lab Panel. And at the left are all the 5 pillars of aging. It's how it's structured. So we have hormones at the top. And then we have insulin dynamics, which is the sugar metabolism, diabetes. And then we have cholesterol tests, and then inflammation, and then nutrients. So again, those are the 5 pillars of health. Multiple health coaches and naturopaths and chiropractors and so on that have used our site, have liked our site, they tend to want other things such as IgG food sensitivity testing, heavy metals, these kind of things. So we've added these things as we've gone along to this one single page. But the point is, it has an auto calculator at the bottom there. And people, if they're on a budget, they can stay within their budget and they can bundle prices within this. So let me show you how it works. So on the left here, somebody wanted to just check an insulin and A1C. And if you notice, they could have bundled glucose, insulin, and A1C and saved 25%. People love to use this single page and order one test at a time or multiple tests as bundles. And so this person who wanted the red blood cell magnesium this morning, all they had to do was come to this page and click on nutrient panel, and then they would be able to click on the RBC magnesium test and just get that test. So who pays for the phlebotomist? Who pays for the actual blood draw? Well, we do. So we will cover any draw fees that are incurred. And the draw fees can be anywhere from $15 to $25 for us in general. Some are $35, but in general, $15 to $25. But we cover the draw tests. All right. And then looking at to the right, we look at sugar, insulin, and A1C. Talks about reasons to check it and really kind of just some brief information on the test. People tend to like little test descriptions, so that's cool. Now, when we put together this anti-aging platform of tests, my comprehensive approach, our common tests are not commonly tested. I want to talk about those for just a minute. So cholesterol at the top, we test instead of just your basic fasting lipid panel. We like everyone to get an advanced lipid panel. When I say we, I mean me. I think everyone should get an advanced lipid panel at least once in their life, and I'm going to talk about why here in a minute. Lipoprotein A is included in the advanced lipid panel. Everyone needs to know whether or not they actually have positive lipoprotein A or not, and I'll talk about why. Inflammation to the right, of course, homocysteine not covered by insurance, universally denied by insurance, but really important to look for when it comes to cognitive decline. People that have high levels of homocysteine tend to have problems in their methylation pathway, and it needs to be addressed, really. People who have high levels of homocysteine are also at higher risk for stroke and heart attack, in addition to early cognitive decline and Alzheimer's. High sensitivity CRP is considered to be one of the biomarkers of chronic inflammation. If the number is above 2.0, statistically, it does increase the risk for stroke and heart attack. As that number goes higher, it can signal autoimmune diseases, and also it can signal the presence of cancers if it's super high. So the point is, if somebody's CRP is really, really high for a long period of time, more than a couple of months, they need to be evaluated more thoroughly with even more testing, tests that we don't offer, tests that they should get through rheumatologists and so on, to really look at where is that significant inflammation coming from. All right, so insulin dynamics, of course, most people know about sugar and A1C, and we should be screening everybody, by the way, because remember, 86 million pre-diabetics, and that's a glucose from 100 to 125, and an A1C of 5.7 to 6.4. 86 million, 90% of people do not know. All right, so it's really important that they know. It's our it's sort of our goal. Try to get the message out that people actually get tested and they know whether or not they have it, because it's much easier to reverse prediabetes than it is diabetes. Fasting insulin, another thing that no one's checking, but there's more insulin resistance than we've ever seen before. It's a hormone that really drives deposition of fat into the belly fat. So we like to intercept this disease in the earliest stages, which is when your fasting insulin is really high, before your blood sugar has even gone up. And then, of course, hormone, we talked about the fat hormones and your stress hormone or cortisol and thyroid hormone. We talked about some of the nutrients. So I want to sort of get down to the thyroid, because the thyroid is really interesting when we talk about hormones. The thyroid's this little gland in the neck here, and we kind of thought maybe Lisa had it. This is Mona Lisa. But some doctors wrote an article about how they think Lisa had hypothyroidism. So do you know the most common cause of hypothyroidism here in the United States? It's actually an autoimmune cause. But back in the day, I think it was in the 1500s or so, Lisa, actually, they thought the cause was iodine deficiency. So iodine deficiency is the most common cause worldwide in undeveloped countries. But in developed countries, we're seeing way more autoimmune disease. So why do they think Lisa had this? Well, they thought that her hair was kind of thin. If you look at the top where the veil is, the black veil, they thought her hair was kind of thin. They thought she was missing the outer third of her eyebrows, which is a sign of hypothyroidism. They thought her face was kind of puffy, in particular her anterior neck there. They thought it was a little bit bulging, maybe a goiter. And then they looked at her hands, and they thought there was some edema of her hands. And they looked at the hair flowing down the sides of her face and neck. And they really felt like her hair was kind of coarse. So that's the findings of hypothyroidism, right? So thinning hair, coarse hair, dry skin, edema of the face and hands, and then sometimes even a weak facies or a weak smile. So they really kind of felt like maybe she had it. Well, who knows if she had it or not. But these days, we can actually tell. So someone came through our platform, and they had seen their doctor, and their doctor, they'd had all the symptoms that I sort of just described, which are hypothyroid symptoms. People are smart. They go and they read about this, and they're like, wow, I have all the symptoms. My doctor did a TSH, and it was 4, and they told me I was normal. Well, an optimal TSH is less than 2. This is the signaling hormone from the brain down to your thyroid gland. And so she thought, oh, I need a deeper dive. So she did some advanced tests on her thyroid through our website. And then took him back to her provider and, of course, had the answer. Does anybody happen to know what the diagnosis is? And I don't want anybody to diagnose or treat, but I'm just saying, look at these peroxidase antibodies. If you understood that peroxidase antibodies signaled Hashimoto's thyroid disease, the question for the provider would be, does she have Hashimoto's thyroid disease because her antibodies are positive? Does she need treatment? And the truth is, the answer is yes. She has Hashimoto's and she needs treatment, and she's going to totally feel better when she does this. So this is an example of someone who did a little deeper dive on their own, took the information and went back to their provider and actually got a proper diagnosis and proper treatment. And so that is the power of sort of taking the impetus on ourselves to do a little further investigating, getting some data, and then reviewing that again with our own providers. Dr. Hashimoto came up with this in 1912 when he looked at the thyroid gland of a bunch of Japanese women, and he noticed lymphocyte proliferation in their thyroid. You don't always have to have positive antibodies, but the positive antibodies always signal that there's an autoimmune condition. Super common in women, by the way. We think over 20 million women in the U.S. Have this problem. We see the antibodies 5 years before we see the onset of the actual TSH going up and the lack of T3. So my optimal levels, because this is at the end, my optimal levels for TSH are less than 2.0. My optimal levels of free T4, which is the inactive form, is 1.0 and above. The free T3, my optimal levels are 3.0 and above. And then my peroxidase antibody levels, of course, would be negative or less than 9. Same thing with the thyroglobulin antibodies. And some people ask me, why doesn't she have positive thyroglobulin antibodies? Well, it turns out the peroxidase antibodies are more sensitive, and we see those elevated more often than the thyroglobulin. But oftentimes you'll see both elevated. Interesting, huh? All right, now as an ER doctor, I see a lot of this problem going on, heart attacks. And so people will come into the ER and have a heart attack, and their bad cholesterol, which is called LDL, will be at their goal, right where we want them to be. So why is that? What is going on? Why are we still having heart attacks, even though this bugaboo cholesterol seems to be somewhat controlled? So for years, we've been looking at the standard lipid panel. This is typically what's ordered if you go in and you do preventive medicine labs with your doctor. It's covered by insurance, not a super expensive test, but it really is missing something. So researchers years ago began looking for deeper dive testing when it came to cholesterol testing. And here's a real-world example. This is Bob Harper from NBC's Biggest Loser. Remember, I told you I work for a company that consulted for that show. Well, it turns out that he had a heart attack at the age of 51. And does he look like he should have a heart attack? I don't think so. And so really, what was the cause? Well, he revealed, and this is all public information here, he revealed that lipoprotein A caused his heart attack. And he went on to Dr. Oz and he was trying to tell people about this. This article, Sandra, was written by Sandra here. Sandra is the founder of the Lipoprotein A Foundation. She herself had an event at the age of, I think, 40, in her 40s. And multiple people on her site talk about lipoprotein A, the importance of getting testing, and what the latest research is showing in helping people who have lipoprotein A. So really, what is it? I mean, lipoprotein A is a genetically inherited LDL cholesterol. L is for lousy. So your LDL cholesterol molecule is super small, super dense, and causes accelerated disease, not only of your vessels around your heart and your brain, but it also increases the risk for strokes. I'm sorry, for blood clots, like DVT and pulmonary embolus. So wouldn't it be nice if you knew whether or not you had this? If I told you the lipoprotein A had the risk of smoking for 50 years, a couple packs a day, would that perk your interest a little bit more? Because that's really what it is. It increases your risk for a stroke and heart attack, equivalent to being a smoker for all those many, many years. And so the idea here is that we just need to know about it. We need to be testing for it, and nobody is testing for it. Why? Because insurance companies don't pay for it. That's why. They think it's unnecessary. In fact, I've sort of gotten into it with Blue Cross Blue Shield, and I've said, guys, why don't you take care of this problem? I don't understand. And they say, well, guys, you really need to just give them a statin. And you don't need to test for it. Well, I don't know if he's aware of this, but statins can actually increase lipoprotein A. And by the way, so does going through menopause. If you lose the protective effect of estrogen, your lipoprotein A levels will go even higher. So I started looking for this in my practice, and unfortunately, I found it right here at home. My wife ended up having it, and then I checked, of course, family, and her father had it. So now I know that each one of our kids has a 50% chance of inheriting it. I myself don't have it. I check my nurses in my clinic. The healthiest nurse that I have, who just super healthy, has it, and her mother actually had a heart attack at age 47. We checked her. Of course, she was positive, and so when you have somebody who's positive for lipoprotein A, you really need to do a little bit more and investigate things, do a comprehensive blood test, make sure they don't have inflammation, make sure they don't have sugar problems, make sure that everything that can be controlled is controlled. In other words, stopping smoking, making sure they're at their ideal body weight and eating great. And then many of my people I will send for a coronary calcium score. And by the way, at least here in Texas, they can go on their own and order it on themselves, and they go in and they get this test. They lie into a tube and they reconstruct their arteries. So that's what we did with the nurse, and we found that she had a lesion, a developing lesion in the exact same place, her left anterior descending artery, which is the widowmaker artery, at the exact same place where her mother had had a stent put in years before, the exact same place. So the idea here is, by being aggressive in our understanding of things and testing, we're now able to identify people that are much higher risk and watch them a lot more carefully. Get them to a cardiologist earlier for good preventative visits and that kind of stuff. And this actually was from the Journal of Cardiology. So this is something that now cardiologists are now recognizing. This is a very recent article, by the way. The idea of advanced lipid panel is that it gives you far more information. And so when this is actually a physician who came through our site and then sort of called me afterwards because he was very scared about the lipoprotein A. He'd done some reading on it. This is one of the highest levels I've seen, by the way, of lipoprotein A. It's all the way at the bottom, 325. So the idea here is that the advanced lipid panel gives us this genetic test. Really, you only need to know about it one time, and then of course if it's elevated and you're undergoing some type of treatment to try to lower it, it would be nice to know if the treatment's working. High dose niacin tends to be the thing that moves it the most, lowering it by up to 30%. Omega-3s can sometimes lower it by 10%. But all these things, all these strategies we have really should be done in consultation with the cardiologist who's going to follow that client for the rest of their life, because they're just simply at much higher risk. Also, the advanced cholesterol panel tells you whether or not you have light, fluffy cholesterol, or you have the small, dense cholesterol. So small, dense LDL is measured on this test through LDL small. And this person here not only had lipoprotein A, but they had the smallest, densest form of LDL cholesterol. And we can also look at subunits of HDL, which is the good cholesterol. H is for happy, so that's good. And HDL, when it's missing, when you don't have a lot of large HDL, then you're in real trouble, because HDL is what removes lipoprotein A, modified LDL, and LDL small from the lining of the arteries. So this person here is in significant trouble. And the triglycerides, of course, are terrible. They're eating way too many carbs. Triglycerides are my marker for nutritional intake. Genetically, it can be high, but also it can be high when you eat too many carbs. If you don't believe me, stop eating so many carbs and get it retested, and it goes down. If you take omega-3 fish oil, that can also lower your triglycerides and increase your HDL. So there's a lot of sort of natural things that people can learn about, and then they can come up with a plan on how they're going to address these issues with their provider. And you could be that person who, sort of directs the whole process, make sure that they are comfortable with going and getting their own tests and coming up with questions for their provider and actually getting the treatments that they need as directed by their provider. And that's sort of how it works. So my ask for you guys today would be to really think about becoming an affiliate. I mean, it is free to become an affiliate. It doesn't cost anything. You don't have to participate in the masterclass if you don't want to. The masterclass is only about educating you and giving you some really, really cool information on testing. We do offer the ability for you to order testing on your own if you want to. You can test the system. If you want to do our 5 pillars of health education, we came up with this really cool package for you. All right, so let's just go through it, and then I'm going to start taking some questions. So the idea here is that we do 5 deep dive lab training modules. They're a go-at-your-own-pace module. There's PowerPoint lecture downloads, there's video education to it, and there's evidence-based tools. So we give you evaluation tools that should be triggered by certain results. So if you have somebody who has a very low AM cortisol, one of the tools that we always recommend is downloading the sleep surveys and having them fill those out. And if they're positive, sending them to a sleep provider, somebody who will check them and make sure they don't have the most common reason for adrenal problems, which is sleeping problems due to obstructive sleep apnea. Super common these days and almost, missed, many times missed by everyone because people just aren't thinking about it. But if you can help a person by directing them to the resources they need to get proper diagnosis and treatment, they'll thank you forever, because when you fix obstructive sleep apnea, it reverses, and it can reverse prediabetes. It can help people's cholesterol levels. It can help them with energy, and of course helps their hormone levels, and they feel like a totally different person. I've done it many times, and I'm telling you, those people are super happy. And of course, in-depth explanations of each individual test telling you what the functional ranges are, and these are my functional anti-aging ranges. So when I thought about offering education, I kind of thought I'm going to throw in this transformation panel because it's our most comprehensive panel, and my point with education always is people pay way more attention when the biomarkers are super important to them. And there is no better way to make them super important to you than to make them your own biomarkers. Or if you're a woman out there who's concerned about their spouse and whether they want their spouse tested, you can actually give the lab requisition to your spouse or give us the information. We'll make the requisition for them. Because we want you to really care about the results enough to actually really learn about the testing. So hormones, these are just examples of what's included in the, this is the exact information on what's included in the testing. So if you want to know the 5 pillars of health here, you can look through the list, and it is going to be available on our website where this offer is. But we're going to do some advanced thyroid testing, the hormone testing, and so on. And then we're also going to look at the advanced cholesterol panel, really important to look at lipoprotein A. We're going to measure these inflammatory markers just to make sure that they're okay. And then nutrients. We want to look at a lot of these common nutrient deficiencies. So the most common nutrient deficiencies that we see are 90% of people are deficient in omega-3 index these days and their omega-3 ratios. Many, and this is really just due to diet, we're all just eating terrible. And so our omega-3 is 90%. Many women are deficient in serum ferritin. 70% of people are deficient in vitamin D, and about 80% are thought to be deficient in magnesium, best measured by red blood cell magnesium. We also like to look at the B vitamins, B12 and folate, because they're really important in the methylation pathway. And we know if there's an issue with the methylation pathway, if we have low B12, low folate, and of course high homocysteine. High homocysteine we think needs to be treated, and the treatments are all very natural, so it's pretty awesome. All right, so some people are like, well, it's kind of a go at your own pace masterclass. Sounds like a lot of information, and it is. It's about 15 to 20 hours worth of stuff, and so it does take some time to get through it. So there was kind of a demand for people to have these sort of lab cheat sheets, and we came up with these things because it was really cool for clients, for health coaches who had clients who wanted to pay you guys to sit down and formulate questions for their provider. And what these cheat sheets are is they have a description of each lab test. So a brief description, this is what it tests for, and then it has the optimal ranges in the middle in the gray there. And then to the right, I know it's hard to see, but then to the right are all the recommendations for each one of the lab tests that may not be at the optimal level. So when that client goes in, and just a lot of health coaches will take these things and laminate them, and then they will circle all the issues that are going on and all the potential things that their provider will need to think about. And then you direct that person back there to a provider with all these questions. Now, you spent an hour going through all of this with your client and giving them the information and coming up with some really great questions for the provider. And so you're doing that person just an awesome service. You're basically sort of holding their hand as an advocate for their doctor to get properly diagnosed and treated. Pretty awesome. Okay, now people that actually went through the masterclass wanted to actually have me go over labs with them. And so, you know, the thing is, I can educate you about your labs. I just can't make it I can't make it specific to you. So what I do is a group lab review, and there is a live group lab review coming up in mid-January. We do have a recorded lab review that you can look at anytime. But that lab review is something where I'm going through and I'm talking about each individual lab and how we can fix those labs and make them better. And it's cool because you learn from others interacting, particularly in the live session. And then we learn how conventional doctors look at the labs versus functional or anti-aging providers. And I have to tell you this, I mean, I was a conventional doctor for, you know, many, many years. And so I totally get where they come from. And now that I'm more of a functional, I totally kind of get where functional comes from. So you're going to get sort of the best of both worlds because I've been in both worlds and I can totally relate to both worlds. All right. We kind of thought the other thing we want to throw in with this is if we're going to partner with you and we're going to try to add value for you, and you're going to go through this entire masterclass at your own pace, and you're going to have the cheat sheets and you're going to go over the lab, you're really going to learn the stuff. We wanted to offer you a way to help build your practice. And so we have a team, an IT team, that can actually build a landing page for you that we put on our site, and we actually maintain it for you. By the way, if you want to do this on your own, you can do it anytime. You can just contact us. It's $299 to do it. We take your photo and a bio, less than 250 words, and we actually create a landing spot. And if you're a premium affiliate, it's pretty awesome because your affiliation your clients land on this page and they know they're in the right place. So what page is this? This is actually the single order test page. This is where they can go just order a red blood cell magnesium if that's what they wanted to do. But that's the whole purpose here. These are two people, online influencers, JJ Virgin. Some people may have heard of her. She's been on TV, written a lot of New York Times bestsellers. Dr. Kellyanne Petrucci, she's been on Dr. Oz, also on a lot of TV type stuff. She's an online influencer. She loved the idea of our direct access platform, and I got to contribute to her latest book, which is pretty awesome. Okay, so if you're a premium affiliate, because you've gone through this class, we're going to make you a premium affiliate, which means we're going to increase your revenue share to 20%. And this, we felt like this will help pay for the class over time for you and make this like a no-risk deal for you. So the offer is all of these things together. If you're an affiliate, we want to throw in the ability for you to actually get this going. So if you do have a website already, we want you to be able to download our logos here to the left. We want you to be able to download banners for your website here. And then all you'll do is you'll just plug in your affiliate link behind these get started and order now buttons and so on that are on the banner. So we try to make it as easy as possible. We also thought that we could leverage our team that writes for us and actually write for you. And so we have done for you email scripts where we go through and we explain the benefits of lab testing. And we also explain 5 pillars of aging and so on. And so you can download these scripts. Done for you e-guide, we have that as well. It's editable, so you could put your own logo on it and so on. And it's just a guide where it's an educational thing where I'm talking about the 5 pillars of health and so on. And this might be, a great add-on for your practice and what you're doing for your clients. Disclaimers and testimonials. It's always important for you to understand your state laws and what you can do as a health coach or otherwise if you're other type of practitioner. But we have disclaimers when it comes to affiliations, what the Federal Trade Commission really wants to see. And so we have those. If you want to download those, you're welcome to. They're something that just is a resource for you to give you ideas. And then testimonials. We thought it was really important to provide you testimonials. So if you're going to put this up on your website or on a blog post, you can actually use the testimonials that we have gotten permission from people to use. And this is Mitch Gaylord. Many of you might remember him from the 1984 Olympics. It was the first men's Olympic team to win gold. And Mitch Gaylord won himself a couple gold medals. By the way, he's a fantastic person. He lives here in Austin. He went through a direct access platform, and he wrote us a testimonial. So you're welcome to download these things. Also, blog posts, content. We know health coaches are always, needing content. If you wanted to, use some of ours, you're welcome to. And so we have these downloadable content for you. So we try to build the whole idea here is we're trying to help you build your business and help more people. So now, cost. Okay, so let's just talk about blood tests. So our transformation panel right now, if you go on our website, you can get it for $1,750. That'll give you these 60 blood tests. The Lab Masterclass, if you just wanted the education right now, we do that for $9.99. If you want the cheat sheets, we do that for $249. The Lab Review webinar, shoot, if you're an affiliate and you just want access to it, it's no problem. We just send it to you. It's not a big deal. And then the custom landing page, if you decide to order from us in the next 48 hours, we'll build you one for free. But this one is $299. And then affiliate status, 20% revenue share. So if you were to add all this up, it would be well over $3,000. And so we didn't want that. We wanted to make it like unbeatable deal for you. So for the next 5 days, we're going to offer this at $14.99. And just hang on a second because I've got a little Christmas bonus for you. Okay. So $14.99 is really what it is. If you go to yourlabwork.com, Dr. Allen Masterclass, you can actually see all of the information on the offer. So if you have specific questions on hey, what is the, I need to know exactly what you're testing. You'll see all the tests listed there. You'll see more information on the cheat sheets, more information on the IT landing page build that we'll do for you. And you'll understand hopefully a little bit better about the offer because it's just explained in detail. So go to yourlabwork.com, Dr. Allen Masterclass. If you do have questions, email us at support@yourlabwork.com. I'm going to start answering questions here in a minute, so hopefully I'll knock out what questions you have. We do have a payment plan and so on, but the Christmas special. So if you're still hanging in there and you're listening, look, it's coming up on Christmas. We came up with a special code for you to use to get $100 off this price, and that's MC1214. So write it down and use it. It's awesome. We're just doing it for the Christmas. It's pretty awesome. It's our Christmas gift to you to get this even better price. If you do want to do a payment plan, our payment plan is $527 per month for 3 months. As soon as we receive the first payment, we contract with the IT guys to go ahead and start building your page as long as you provide us the information we need. We need the bio, we need the photo, and so on. And then we'll increase your revenue share immediately to 20%. So we assign you an affiliate link, and we link it to your custom page, and then we make that a 20% revenue share. So hopefully everybody understands that, right? So if somebody comes to our website, they order $200 worth of labs. As soon as they check out, we automatically send you $40. Does that make sense? So you get 20% of whatever's spent on the website with the labs. Once you're actually paid in full on the payment plan, that's when we provide you full access to the lab requisition and the education product. And we did this just because we want to make sure everybody paid completely before we gave them access to those two things. Okay, so now I'm going to just go over one more thing. And again, if you want information on the actual offer, if you want a review on it, go to yourlabwork.com, Dr. Allen Masterclass. I want to review this with you because I love educating. So the 5 key areas to aging here: nutrients. The most common things that improve metabolism are, if you have a methylation problem, B12 and folate are really important. Vitamin D is much more than a vitamin. It's really a hormone, interacts with every cell in our body. We think that when you're optimal on vitamin D, we think that it helps blood pressure, lowers seizures, helps psychiatric disorders, anxiety, bipolar, and so on. And also, we think it might help insulin function better. But there's great data around cancer prevention. So we love vitamin D just in general. Omega-3s, they really help maintain your cell membranes so they're nice and pliable instead of stiff. That actually makes metabolism a lot easier for your body. The 3 most common nutrient deficiencies in our experience: omega-3 is about 90% of people, magnesium about 80% of people, and vitamin D about 70% of people. So very common deficiencies. Thyroid, getting to this, how do you know you're at risk? Well, if you're a woman, you should be automatically thinking, shoot, I wonder if I'm at risk, because you're 10 times more likely than a man to develop a thyroid disease. And the first thing we see on the road to developing thyroid disease is the positive antibodies. And again, the most common cause in the United States is autoimmune disease due to Hashimoto's. And that can be picked up through testing for peroxidase antibodies. My optimal levels, I mentioned this before: TSH 0.4 to 2.0, free T4, which is in active form, is greater than 1, and then free T3, ideally we like to see it above 3. And these are my optimal levels. Others may have different thoughts, but these are my levels. Healthy blood vessels. I think the panel that I use for people is not the fasting lipid panel. I use the advanced lipid panel because it includes lipoprotein A and all the subunits of both good and bad cholesterol. Remember, I told you that 50% of people who come into the emergency room with a heart attack are already at their goal. The problem is that if we were to do a deeper dive, we would find out that they actually have really small, dense cholesterol, lots of bad particles, and they have lipoprotein A in many cases. 1.2 million heart attacks in the United States every single year, and about 120,000 of them, the only risk factor is lipoprotein A. So it really does happen to otherwise seemingly healthy people. It's good to know about. Inflammation, very sensitive marker for inflammation is HSCRP. That's a high sensitivity CRP. If you see that it's elevated above 2, it really should be repeated within 4 to 6 weeks to 8 weeks. If it's still high, then you have chronic inflammation that needs to be addressed. The lab indicators, again, are high sensitivity CRP and homocysteine. And I'm concerned if my CRP is above 2.0, because that's when there's statistical risk increases for stroke and heart attack. Ideally, CRP should be less than 1. Homocysteine, when that's high, of course, been associated with cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, stroke, heart attack, measure of the methylation pathway, so it's a good thing to get checked. Then metabolism, finally, what are the essential lab tests for metabolism? I like to look at fasting insulin. I need to make sure nutrients are in alignment, and I love to look at thyroid hormones to make sure we don't have a thyroid problem. And then, of course, how do insulin levels impact weight loss? Well, high fasting insulin levels make it really hard to lose weight because insulin is a pro-growth hormone. If you ever notice somebody who has diabetes and they're transitioning onto insulin because they can't make any more, we give them subcutaneous insulin to give themselves. What's the first thing that happens in the first 30 days? They gain a bunch of weight, 20, 30 pounds in their first month. Why is that? It's because their insulin levels start going really high. So we don't like high insulin levels, and that's the first thing that we can intercept on the road to diabetes. So we love to identify that and try to fix it. And then what are the optimal insulin levels for aging well? Of course, I like insulin levels that are less than 2, because that means you don't really have much around at all. It's super efficient, working really well. Less than 6 is pretty optimal, but if you really want to know where as best you can be, would be less than 2. And then finally, what are some benefits of direct access testing for you and your clients? Well, I hope that you've learned today that it's important that we invest time in looking for optimal health. And one of the things that we can do is use this technology of advanced testing. And if you want to do this solely for yourself, we try to design this masterclass so that you're going to actually get all the lab tests for less than you would going on our website, and all the rest of the stuff is a bonus. So we think of it as education is probably the most valuable thing, and the lab tests we're just throwing in for free. So if you do order, be sure to use the special Christmas deal, MC1214, and just write that down. Okay, now I'm going to go and try to answer some questions. So if you have any, now's the time to sort of go in. I'll be monitoring the chat box and the Q&A. Okay, so is there an option, so this is Chris, is there an option to test for the MTHFR variants? Okay, so Chris, so you are aware that there are 2 main variants for MTHFR. I believe it's 1298 and 677T. We had such tremendous interest from health coaches on MTHFR that we actually added the MTHFR genotype testing to our offerings. And so if you go under the custom lab order page, you will see the ability to singly test for the MTHFR gene. And it will tell you whether or not you have one of those 2 main variants. And of course, the 677T is the one that causes all the problems. Okay, so let's see. So Heather, do you have any physical therapists as affiliates? So yeah, so Heather, you can sort of write us and tell us how to work there. We have people from sort of all over. We have people that aren't, they don't do, I mean, they're just health optimizers that are into blogging and telling people about health that talk about direct access testing. So that's important. If you're a licensed practitioner, a medical practitioner, say as a doctor as an example, we cannot be an affiliate for you because of state laws or certain specific state laws. We don't fall under Stark, the anti-kickback statutes, because we don't take federal insurance. But we do fall under certain state laws that don't allow us to revenue share with providers. And it's really sort of anti-kickback provisions in certain states. And it's good because we don't want to have doctors sending us their patients and making money from sending us their patients, and they only send us their patients because they wanted to make money, because that can be looked at the wrong way. And this is why, if you're a health coach and so on, it's so much easier to revenue share with you guys because we fall compliant within that range. Okay, so I think we answered some of these questions. Guerrero, you asked about the masterclass, how much is it? So again, it's $14.99, but if you use that discount code, you'll get it for $13.99, and that would be cool. Okay, can I email you the article on lipoprotein A? So Guerrero wants me to email him the article on lipoprotein A. I can. So I will. I'm going to copy your email right now, Guerrero, and I will send you that article. It's a really great article, and I think lipoprotein A, we all really should talk about it and should know about it. And if you've never been tested before, you can go to our custom lab order page and click on genetics tab and just check for lipoprotein A. It's like $50. You only need to do it once. I think people should get advanced lipid panels. It includes LP(a) and gives you way more information. It's not that much more. All right. So what companies do we use for genetic tests and nutrigenomics? So we're working actually on adding a genetic test company right now. So I don't know that I could say more about that until I get that information. Our current genetic tests are somewhat limited. We have MTHFR. We have, of course, we have lipoprotein A, and then we have another one that I can't, for some reason, I can't remember what it is right now. Oh, it's the ApoE genotype. And it turns out, I got myself tested, and I'm an ApoE3/4 genotype. So I have about a 30% risk of going on to develop Alzheimer's. Of course, the worst genotype to have would be an ApoE4/4. And if you're on our Facebook page, the Lab IQ page, we actually have a doctor on there who contributes from time to time. He actually has ApoE4/4. So he's at a much higher risk, about a 50 to 80% chance of developing Alzheimer's. So we kind of thought, again, that was driven by health coaches. They wanted the specific test, and so we went out there and found a contract for it. But the idea is, if you guys have ideas, we're going to listen to you. Because we're really trying to maintain a partnership. You're out there with people and you're hearing what people are talking about and what they want. And if we can add it reasonably, we try to do that. We're trying to work on another genomics provider, another micronutrient provider, but we've been sort of adding things. We recently added the Dutch test because of health coaches. That's the dried urine testing for hormones, which also includes cortisol and some neurotransmitters. So that's kind of cool. And then we added the food sensitivity IgG testing. A lot of controversy around that, by the way. People think that IgE food testing should only be done, but IgG food testing, they think they're not really sure about the value of it. Now, functional medicine doctors think it's great, particularly for elimination diets. But the point is, we listened to what health coaches had to say about it. People wanted it, so we now have provided for that, so that is available. Okay, all right. So yeah, so Natalie, you were asking, is the next 5 days the only time the special price is applicable? Yes, for the next 5 days, you can get it for $14.99. And if you do that coupon's good for 5 days only, and then that coupon expires. If you order in the next 2 days, or tell us you're going to order in the next 2 days, we will throw in the custom landing page. And of course, we service that and we keep that on our site, so there's no cost to you to do that. We just need to have your photo and bio. But and again, I try to be reasonable about this. If people within the first 2 days say, "Look, I'm going to get this," or "I think I'm going to get this. Let me throw this together," we go ahead and put it down that they're going to do it, so that you get the IT page. I don't want to be stingy about the IT page, because to me the IT page is like super important for your practice, because it shows you that your clients, they're in the right place. All right, so I'm a holistic health coach practitioner, herbal medicine focused, being beneficial to my clients. Nutrition is a major focus of my practice, whether other lifestyle changes. So, I mean, Natalie, this has been sort of demanded by people. People want direct access testing. We're a little bit different than most people, because since I founded this company, I understand the advanced aging labs in a comprehensive way, and I put together on one page what I think are the most important. And then as we listen to what's going on in the marketplace with your clients and so on, we've been adding additional tests. So if there are things that you don't see on our site that you would love to see, you just email us. And when we have enough people requesting that, then we go and we try to get a contract with a company for that. For example, we use Precision Analytical for the Dutch testing, and then the Meridian labs for the IgG food sensitivity testing. And the reason why that happened is because we went to Quest and we wanted to have the IgG testing done. And do you know how much it was? It's $1,200. That was our cost. So there's no way I'm going to go out and price an IgG food sensitivity test for $1,500 for someone. There's no way I'm going to do that. And so we went outside of Quest, looked around, tried to figure out better pricing, and we now have it at a much, much better price. And by the way, they test for far more things. It's 190 food sensitivity tests, whereas Quest was only like 81, and it was significantly more money. So, so it does require work on it, but we're willing to do it. Okay, all right, so let's see. Do we currently have a practice in Houston? So here's the thing is, we don't, just so you know, so this is not a medical practice. this is a direct access lab company. We're not a medical practice. I don't talk to people about their labs. I don't interact. We partner with an integrative doctors who do telemedicine, who are completely separate from us. They can, if the person wants to, we give them a link. They can go and they can schedule a telemedicine appointment. Our only position with them was that you have to support health coaches. In other words, if health coaches are going to work with you and are going to refer people to you, we want you to support them in whatever way that they need to be supported. And so we have an integrative practice who's doing telemedicine. And then we also have an integrative OBGYN doctor who will do all the Dutch testing interpretations if the client wants it, okay? We only do the blood tests. If a person wants to visit with a provider, it has nothing to do with us other than we give them a referral. We don't get paid to give them a referral. We're not their affiliate or anything like that. We just wanted to have a place for your clients to go to who is a provider who could diagnose and potentially treat. And the reason why we wanted to do it with integrative practitioners is because we're putting a lot of focus into integrative medicine because that tends to be the people who are really interested in their health. All right. Okay, do you have a specific line of supplements you work with? This is from Carl or Carrie. Yeah, so Carrie. So we do not have a specific line of supplements that we work with. We're not in the supplement industry or business. When I was a medical director over a bunch of prediabetes clinics several years ago, they had their own manufacturer and stuff, so very familiar with that. But we currently don't have any of that kind of stuff. If you guys have any recommendations, I think that would be really cool to bring it to the group. I think that there's probably bigger purchasing power if you guys get on Lab IQ and all talk together about how can we get the best pricing for nutraceuticals and get a bunch of you to band together and go get a big contract pricing so that you can then all sell them on your websites. That would seem like a real reasonable thing to do. Okay, all right, so let's see if there's any other questions here. Hopefully I've answered most of these. Okay, look, here we go. So Jen, okay, so Jen is asking, so if I need a thyroid doc to prescribe meds, the telemedicine doc can do that. Yeah, so the idea here is the telemedicine doctors will review the lab work with you, and they'll tell you exactly what you need, and then it'll be dependent on where you live, what the state laws are, whether or not you actually need to go visit their clinic in person, whether or not a telemedicine visit is good enough for them to prescribe medicine. But the idea here is you'll be able to see the person, or at least have the MD sit down and go through everything with that person one-on-one. And that is tremendous value. It doesn't cost a ton. I mean, it all depends on where you're from and your experience, but functional medicine doctors tend to be very expensive. And the reason why is because they spend time with their clients. And so if you're going to spend time with their clients, it costs money. Here in Austin, Texas, it's $500 to $700 per hour. And actually, there's a physician assistant who's charging with $500 an hour. So the idea is that functional medicine doctors are under such high demand that here in Austin, Texas, there's a 6-month waiting list, even at those prices. Well, with telemedicine, we wanted to make it much more affordable for people. So this group is less than $200. I think it's $179 or $197 or something like that for the telemedicine lab review. And they're integrative, meaning that they're going to understand all these sort of functional medicine things that health coaches tend to be a little bit more in tune with. And then they're going to give them an action plan on what to do. And it might be, depending on where they're from, hey, you need to go to your doctor. This is what we recommend for you based on your tests. These are maybe some additional tests that you might want to consider doing, and so on. But the idea is to give you guys a supportive practice that allows you to integrate with the supportive practice, at least have those resources available to you. All right, so Ricardo said he just finished work. Okay, Ricardo, the weekend's coming, good times. There will be a recorded version, so you can see that likely tomorrow. And so let's see what else. Okay, so Annette, let me find your first question. All right, what if my website is not ready and cannot be shared just yet? We are just up and running, health coach and store. So here's the thing yet. You don't have to have a website to become an affiliate. You get an affiliate link. If you do take advantage of this offer and you do it within the next 2 days, we're going to actually build the landing page for you and host it on our website. So it will just sort of be an add-on to anything that you do in the future. So you can take your affiliate link and you can begin posting it. If you have an email list, you can use our affiliate email chain. Remember, we've already done it for you. All you need to do is download it and put it in your email automation. If you don't have that yet, it'd be something good to think about as you build your business, email automation. One of our goals here is to really leverage all of our resources and try to push as many to you as makes sense. But the idea here is that we host the page for you, and then anytime you write a link or a blog or a post in Facebook and you have a little link below and they click on your link, they'll land on your IT page, and then you will get the revenue share as they go through the process. All right, and then Annette also asked, do I need to hire someone to draw blood? And the answer is no. Remember, when they order the tests through us, our providers order the tests. Our providers review the results, and then our providers send them directly to your clients, HIPAA protected. Now, once our provider orders the test, we send that person the lab requisition, and they go directly to a Quest Draw Station center. So there's about 4,000 locations. So it all depends on whether or not there's a location near them. Quest tends to have the highest access. So for most people, a Quest Draw Station will be available. But we cover the lab draws. We cover the phlebotomist. There's nothing to do there. So it's all included in the price of the test. In fact, you can come in to our website and you can order a single test for, I don't know, $25 or something, one single test, and we still cover the phlebotomist, which remember costs us $15 to $25. But most people, the average order, if you want to know, over the last year, the average order is about $500. That's the average person will spend $500 on our website. Can chiropractors be affiliates, Dr. Landau? The answer is no, they can't be affiliates. They can't be affiliates. There are ways in certain states where we can sell discounted labs to chiropractors, and then chiropractors can incorporate them as part of their program. And chiropractors tend to do this if they themselves can't get regional contracts. If you want more information on that, you certainly can email us at support@yourlabwork.com. I can schedule a call with you, Dr. Landau, and talk to you about how that works and how that might work for you, whether or not you use us or not. I've tried to help a few other people that way. Okay, and then Jen, this is so helpful. So I can help clients around food and stress and movement and sleep, but need a doctor to prescribe the meds is key. Okay, yeah, so thank you. So that was the whole idea of really trying to provide resources for your clients to get diagnosis and treatments because a doctor needs to do that, or a provider, a licensed provider. Okay, let's see. Okay, so Vicky wants to know if I happen to have links to info that explains more regarding the state-specific laws and ordering labs while affiliated. I'm a nurse practitioner and plan on becoming a health coach at the same time in the future. So Vicky, again, because you're a nurse practitioner, and if these are your own patients, you're going to fall under the anti-kickback statutes of our state of Texas, and so we can't revenue share with you in that way. So you need to email us, and I will talk you through the compliance. We can schedule a call so you can understand how to be compliant. Listen, we spent a ton of money, I don't know, $20,000 on lawyers before we started any of this stuff, because the last thing that we want to do is put my medical license at risk starting this company, because I love being an ER doctor and I love what I'm doing with the University of Texas and so on. And I want to make sure that when we do this, we're in compliance. And so we kind of understand it pretty well. All right, let's see. Are there any other questions? So Ricardo and Vicky said thanks. Okay, so if there's no other questions, I can certainly let you guys go. I'm just looking to see. Oh, so Ricardo, I didn't mean to leave you out. I'm a fitness and nutrition coach. I like the idea of using blood work as a form of assessment. Is this for me? Ricardo, of course, man, this is for, what I love about direct access testing is this is for your health optimizers, people that care about their health. I was on a panel recently with an NFL football player. He'd retired. He'd spent 15 years in the NFL. Huge guy, a lineman. And he heard me talk about direct access testing, and afterwards he came up to me and he said, "Hey, I just have to tell you, Dr. Allen, like this is what you're doing this is so awesome, because I get my blood tested every 6 months. I do a complete panel because I understand how important it is to intercept something before it becomes a problem. And the idea for us, and in my anti-aging practice, we always recommend a comprehensive test once a year to identify the areas of weakness for that year and then focus in on those areas and get those areas fixed. And that's how we prevent things, right? That's how we intercept things. That's how we identify things. If we only wait until we have symptoms, a lot of times we're behind the 8 ball, particularly with diabetes. We don't get symptoms for diabetes until our blood sugar is above 250 milligrams per deciliter, and that triggers our kidneys to start urinating a lot, and that's when we are thirsty. So we're thirsty, we're urinating a lot, we go to our doctor because our vision's kind of blurred because all the glucose in there, and we can't see, so now we get diagnosed with diabetes. Wouldn't have been better to check a fasting insulin 10 years before and see that that's high and the blood sugar is still normal, and then do aggressive intervention then. And even in prediabetes, if we can reverse prediabetes for a year, research has shown that we might be able to put off diabetes by 10 years. And so it is important that we identify these processes early and we all focus in on them and talk about it. Now, you're a health coach. You don't have to diagnose. You don't have to treat. What you can do is hold people accountable. Have you gone to your doctor yet? Have you asked them all these questions yet? We put together all these questions based on your labs. I'm really concerned about you. We've come up with all these things for stress, and we've looked at your sleep, and we've looked at your exercise and all this kind of stuff. It's have you done this stuff? Have you rechecked to see if your results are better? And we find that when people do recheck, they love it, because now they can see, and this is my own personal practice, by the way, when they actually see how the interventions are working and how it changes objectively their data through their blood, they get super excited about it because they realize they're finally in control. And they understand it. And that's what we want people to do, is understand it. And I do see comments out there where people seem to be threatened by direct access testing. And I think that's the wrong approach, really. I think that this can actually work well for lots of people. And the truth is, we're doing a horrible job when it comes to chronic disease right now. We have more autoimmune disease, more cancer, more diabetes than ever before. Okay, so we're all, and I'm talking about me and conventional doctors, we're all doing horrible job, and herein lies, why has there become a functional medicine? Why do people care about this stuff? So anyway, I'm super behind what you guys are doing as optimizers, because I think that there's a message you can carry that's very powerful. Okay, all right. So in your own practice, you cannot use your own lab business to order patients' labs, can you? So this question is by Vicky. Okay, I'm a little bit confused about that, but in direct access lab tests, the provider who is contracted with, depending on what state it is, actually orders the test and does the review of the tests. And it's their liability to notify a client, not if their test is not normal, if it's something that has to be acted on immediately. If you own a practice and you have your own lab business, it's going to depend on what state you're on and whether or not that's allowable or not. And so you have to look at that depending on what state that is. Yeah. So okay. So let's see. I think I got pretty much everything. All right, guys. So the key here is that if you do have an interest in this particular program and you want to do it, use that discount code MC1214. And I am super happy to have you guys. Sorry to keep you here so long today, and hope you can enjoy the rest of your day. If you do have unrelenting questions that you need answers to, go to support@yourlabwork.com. We will send you emails about the offer so you can look at it. It's yourlabwork.com, Dr. Allen Masterclass. And I think I got your email copied. I'm going to send you that copy of that Lp(a) article. So everybody needs to look at the lipoproteinafoundation.org. And check it out. These are real people that have this problem. Let me just type this in. This is my last little bonus for you, because I really want people to talk about Lp(a) and to recognize there's an issue here. Okay, well, now I can't find it. So, okay, lipoproteinafoundation.org. All right, guys. Well, hey, thanks so much for everything, and I really enjoyed this. Hopefully you guys will reach out to me if you have any further questions. Okay, bye-bye now.